Hello, my name is Nicole Douglas, and this is my Data Action Plan presentation. I'm not currently in the classroom teaching, so I am using data and information provided by Professor Hansen. This data focuses on second grade math students who are 7 to 8 years old. Before beginning the first data meeting, a couple of things must happen. First, a PLC needs to be created. This should consist of teachers who are directly working with the students being discussed. Secondly, an inventory of data needs to be collected. Once these are done, the data meetings can begin. Now, typically the data process would take place with teachers that teach the same subject and grade level. Since this is a graduate course, we are paired with one or two other people and we complete the data process together, but each of us are using our own data. Let's begin by looking at data meeting number 1. A handful of things happen during data meeting 1. It begins by the PLC looking over the data and choosing one piece of macro data to review. Once that piece has been chosen, the team looks over the data and creates notice and wonder statements. Next, the team creates exploratory questions based on the data. To wrap up the meeting, the team decides on one exploratory question to focus on and discusses who will bring certain pieces of data that will help answer the question to the next data meeting. Here is a picture of the initial data that I used in developing my data action plan. It shows the scores for each student on 3 separate objectives, and it also shows their attendance percentage and homework average. I used this data to create my notice and wonder statement shown here. I then created my initial exploratory question, which reads, how is Objective 1 being presented, and can Objectives 2 and 3 be presented in similar ways so that students will perform and ultimately understand the material better? In Data Meeting 2, the teachers of the PLC come back together and triangulate the data they collected. They look at the different pieces and determine how useful the data is in answering the exploratory question and if it is identified as a learning gap or an instructional gap. They do this by completing an artifact tracking sheet. In my situation, since I am not currently teaching in a classroom, I changed my initial exploratory question to one provided with the additional data since it matched the data better than the one I created. My exploratory question now asks, would the students' performance on addition and subtraction increase if the students received additional math support in the computer lab at least once or twice a week? This is my artifact tracking sheet that shows all the data I was given and how I categorized and ranked each item. This piece of data, used in completing my artifact tracking sheet, shows student scores on several math assessments focusing on addition and subtraction. It also shows scores of the beginning of the year benchmark. The second piece of data is one page of the benchmark that has the most addition and subtraction problems shown. I showed this page because my focus is on the addition and subtraction portion of the benchmark. Data Meeting 3 begins by looking at the artifact tracking sheet from Data Meeting 2. The learning gaps are identified first, then instructional gaps. Once these are lined up, a SMART goal, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound, is created and an evaluation metric is agreed upon. You can see here the list of my learning and instructional gaps I encountered. From that data, I created the following SMART goal. On the mid-year benchmark, 85% of students will improve their score to an 8 or higher out of the selected 11 addition and subtraction problems. I will then use the mid-year benchmark as my evaluation piece. In between Data Meetings 3 and 4, the PLC is supposed to research and bring new strategies and activities that support the SMART goal to Data Meeting 4. These will be used to create a data action plan. Here is the data action plan I developed. I found 3 tools I could use that I felt would benefit my students. 2 of them will be used in the computer lab, which will not only work towards my SMART goal, but also aid in answering my exploratory question. Typically, the 5th data meeting is conducted after the implementation period that takes place after data meeting number 4. However, since this course is only 12 weeks, there was not enough time for us to implement our data action plan. We instead paired with one or two other classmates that we have not worked with before and reviewed each other's data action plan. We discussed previous information, asked questions about what is currently being done in the classroom, and then provided feedback and suggestions to each other for our implementation plans. This chart shows the feedback I received from the two people in my group. After reviewing my data action plan, my peers provided me with some suggestions I could use in my implementation process. One area I could improve would be to incorporate different levels of addition and subtraction problems to my center stations. Another way I could adjust my implementation plan is to download some math game apps onto the Chromebooks or iPads. One insight I have gained from this process is learning how to make using technology more purposeful. So often technology is used just to be used. Creating my data action plan made me find purposeful ways to use the computer lab that would assist in meeting my SMART goal and answering my exploratory question. One area of strength I noticed was brainstorming. Even though I have never taught the same grade levels or in the same county as my teammates, I still think I was able to help provide valuable suggestions and ideas as we worked through the data action model. An area of further growth that I need to focus on would be identifying the different types of data. If I were in the classroom, I think I would have a hard time collecting relevant data for the topic at hand. I also struggle with currently identifying data as instructional gaps versus learning gaps. Two protocols that I found very useful, though, were the collaboration piece and the Notice and Wonder protocol. This process cannot be done alone. It is much too overwhelming, and you need many teachers looking over and discussing the data with you. The Notice and Wonder protocol was something new to me. It really changed the way I looked at data when I just stopped and simply stated facts about the data. This will really open your eyes to areas of need and is a must in moving forward to create your exploratory questions. The data action model was created by Daniel Venables. I used his book, How Teachers Can Turn Data into Action, as a resource to explain the data action process. This concludes my journey through the data action model. Thank you for viewing and listening to my presentation.